Welcome to another episode of the Relationship Rehab. I'm your boy Brian Redmond, and this is our life investment experience that we're about to have, where we can get the opportunity to become better versions of ourselves. So, in a couple of episodes before, I was talking about communication and talking about the obstacles with communication when we're talking about things like being transparent, having fear of rejection, so on and so forth. So forth. There we go. We got it. But what I wanted to talk about now also is one of the other things that we fail to do in relationships. One of the issues that we have in relationships is another section that I want to talk about is called expectations, right? So expectations, we all have them, whether we admit to them, whether we are able to communicate those or not, we all have them. So the thing about expectations that I see that we have issues with when it comes to relationships is that we have usually around, well, I can just keep it brief and do like three things with expectations. Failure to set them is one of them. We tend to not demonstrate them, and we don't show people how to meet them, right? So that's kind of like what I want to talk about. So when we're talking about first and foremost, like failure to set expectations, how do we do that? So some people say, well, I told him, I let him know what happened, or I let her know what I needed, and she just didn't do it, or he just didn't do it. That's not a way to set an expectation. Setting an expectation is basically you having a conversation with someone and basically explaining to them what it is that you need, why you need it, and the expectation as far as your part in you helping them to give that to you. That's how you set an expectation, being clear and concise, and then being able to go back with that person over time and be able to revisit it to make sure that it's being met the proper way and to make sure that you guys are standing on the same page with meeting that expectation. Because if I'm an expectation, as opposed to what some people tend to do is make a demand, an expectation is something that I'm going to set with you, something I'm going to explain to you, and then I'm going to be the one to help you achieve that expectation. A demand, however, is just basically you giving somebody a list or giving somebody a particular request and say, hey, I don't care how you do it, make it happen. And that's one of the things that we tend to do as people. We tend to set demands as opposed to setting expectations. So an expectation is something that takes time, it takes patience, and it takes work on both parties. Demands are just basically you saying, hey, this is the list of demands that I have. If you want this, this is what you have to do to get it, and that's it. Just like when you think about bank robbers, right? Bank robber, he's in a bank, and him and his crew, they got all these hostages. What do they do with the negotiator? They come out and they give them a list of demands. These are our demands. If you don't do this, then we're gonna, kill a hostage or whatever. Same thing. So, failure to set those expectations by being not being clear and concise. That's one part of it. Another part is we sometimes tend to set an expectation, but we don't demonstrate that expectation. So you can't expect something from somebody without being able to do it yourself. So if I want someone to, let's say, wash dishes, for instance, if I want you to wash dishes and I want you to wash dishes the way that I like for my dishes to be washed, then I have to be the one to show you how to do that. I have to be able to show you how to do it and say, this is how I like for it to be done. And then if you find a way to do it yourself, but it still gets me to this result, then that's fine. But at the end of the day, I still have to be able to demonstrate what it is that I want to have done and the way I want it to be done, so that you have some type of measuring tool, some type of standard to use to say, well, this is what I need to do. So it's like if you are expecting something in a relationship, you have to be a person who can actually demonstrate that to that person so that they can understand what it is that you're expecting, right? Makes sense. Okay, the other part, and this is probably the most challenging part, I would say, would be when we're talking about setting expectations, being able to demonstrate that expectation. Now the real work comes into play, where the person who has set that expectation, now this person must work with the person that they want to meet the expectation. You have to now coach and train that person on that expectation. So basically, once the expectation is set, once it's understood, once it's been demonstrated, now I have to be the one to coach and train that person on how to actually get to that goal and meet that expectation, right? And that's basically saying, when I talk about coaching and training, that's basically saying Being able to train somebody is being able to show them exactly what it is that you do, but while you're doing that, you're also doing the coaching part by encouraging them, by being patient with them. Those are two of the most crucial and just fundamental things of coaching and training somebody. We tend to be quick to pull out the red pen, if you will, and say, hey, you didn't do this, you didn't do this, you didn't do this, and you didn't do this. And this is what I showed you, what I needed you to do, but you didn't do that. No, that's the wrong way to do it. You have to be patient with that person to know and accept and understand the fact that this is going to take some time. Now, if this person isn't able to meet that time frame that you deem is reasonable, it shouldn't take somebody 5 years to learn how to do something, right? Or it shouldn't take 6 or 7 months to learn how to do something. It's just something that you work with that person back and forth over time to say, well, hey, this is something that we talked about. This is something that I've shown you, and now I'm going to help you do that by giving you examples, by talking and checking in with you from time to time on it to see how you're coming along with it. Those are the things that you need to do, making sure that that person still has a full understanding and a full grasp of it, because sometimes you need to revisit things with people to make sure that they understand that. And then when that person is actually attempting to meet that expectation, you have to be, one of the first things I always tell somebody is always encourage first and then critique later. Critique second. But when you do critique, I always say you only give maybe 2 or 3 at the most areas for improvement, if you will, or opportunities, if you will. So if I see you doing something and it's not necessarily quite to what I wanted you to do, I'm gonna encourage you by saying, hey, great job with the try. I just saw what you tried to do. You did an awesome job at that. I appreciate you taking the time to actually try to do what it is that I'm asking you to do. I'm really happy about that. And then you can say, hey, next time do exactly what you did or how you started out, but can you maybe try to do this part better and maybe that part better? So now you gave them the good first, right? And then you gave them a little bit of the bad. Now, if they did 10 things wrong, then you don't have to give them all 10 right there. You give them 2 out of that 10 and say those other 8 for later. Okay? Because just like that person, if they truly are in relationship with you and they truly care about what it is that you're doing and what they're trying to do to meet that expectation, they're going to be critiquing themselves as well, and they're going to notice that they miss some things too. So you don't have to pile it all on them at once and say, well, you didn't do this, and this. Just give them 1 or 2 things, or like I would say, maybe 2 or 3 at the most, and just leave it there and see what happens the next time and see if they've improved on it. But make sure that you build them up first, encourage them first. Now, the other part to that too is, at the end of the day, in all of this that you're doing, do it in love. Just that simple. Do it in love. Do it because you care about them. Do it because you want them to succeed. Do it because you want them to be successful. And if you can keep that in the forefront of your mind, that this is all being done in love, this is all being done because I want you to succeed, then more than likely you'll get your expectations met. So make sure you set that expectation, make it clear and concise, make sure you can demonstrate that expectation, and then coach and train on those expectations, 2 or 3 corrections at the most each time, and make sure that you do it in love. All right? I love you guys, and I hope that this can help somebody become a better version of themselves. And this is the Relationship Rehab. And this is your boy Brian Redmond, and I'm out. Thank you. Peace.